Hey YouTube, I'm Ali, this is Gaming Indoors, and this here is Night Market, a brand new game about to come out on Kickstarter, published by Talon Strike Studios and designed by Adam Zwain. Yes, Adam Zwain, the very first board game designer I ever interviewed on this channel. This is his game. How excited am I? I am stoked. So first up, what exactly is a night market? Well, in case you don't know, a night market is like a giant food court held outside. Lots of stalls selling street food to a whole bunch of people in the evening or night. Very big in Asia, especially Taiwan, which is where this game is set. Now, as a player, each of us have a small section of the night market. We're trying to fill our section with stalls. We're going to populate those stalls with relevant foods and then find and supply customers as often as we can. Now, this game is played over 4 turns. Each turn is referred to as a season, so it's played over a year in effect, starting with spring, ending with winter, and it's a victory point game. Every action you do, such as selling food, although it gains you money, money is converted to victory points. Hiring chefs, completing certain seasonal bonuses, building signature dishes, all of this will amass you victory points. The winner is the guy or girl with the most number of victory points at the end of winter. So I mentioned before that gameplay here takes place over 4 seasons or 4 turns. Well, each one of those seasons is actually split up into a day phase, a night phase, and an upkeep phase. The upkeep phase is really just a case of setting everything out ready for the next day phase. So there's a bit of resetting of stuff. The day phase is all about gathering items that you're going to sell in the night phase. But it's also an opportunity to hire staff, hire extra workers in effect, hire chefs, find customers, find food items, and organize and purchase extra stalls. All of which you're going to do in the nighttime phase. Now, the day phase is played on a central board. It represents the main city, and it's almost like an expanded version of tic-tac-toe, placing meeples down, so placing workers down in strategic locations to gather the most resource. That's the aim of this game. You're going to take it in turns. You can definitely increase the number of meeples you get to place as you play the game, so it's a case of hiring different people. You can also increase the amount of stuff you're taking back to put onto your board. This game is very much, this part of the game is very much about identifying what bonuses you're going to receive for completing certain actions. So in spring, there are certain bonuses given to you. Winter, there'll be different ones. Also, the season will dictate the kind of customer that you're going to be looking for. If you're selling hot food in the middle of summer, well, it's probably not going to sell as well as cold food would do instead. So there's a little bit of strategy there in itself, just trying to set out the main bit of the day phase. The night phase happens simultaneously. Everyone takes this action simultaneously, so everyone carries on doing their activity at the same time. That's what I'm trying to say there. Now, the night phase is all about taking those resources, those extra people, those customers, allocating them to your own central board. Your own board, it's not central at all, your own board. Now, the own board, each player has one. This represents a smaller section of your own night market. So this is the sort of the pitch you have in which you're going to put out certain stalls. So if you've acquired stalls during the day, you're going to put them out here. If you've got customers, you're going to tuck them in a little customer spot, and you're going to allocate the food to those stalls. Now, in this part of the game, this is all about it's almost like tile matching here. What you're trying to do here is you're putting food in the right location for the right customer to come along. What I liked about this game is it did marry up this sort of finicky nature that customers have about picking certain foods from certain places. They don't want to go to Papa John's for pizza, they want to go to Domino's, for example. So they're very finicky in where they go and what foods they're going to get. All of that you do simultaneously. You add up the scores because you are scoring each round. So you add up scores based on what you sell to the customers, what stalls you've raised, what extra bonuses you get. Not going to go into the details of it here because this is not a how to play, but that's the general review of how the game is structured. First of all, this is a family-friendly game, nothing taboo here. It plays between 2 and 4 players. We played it as a 3-player game. I can't make a recommendation on which the right number of players is, but it played really well with 3 players. Each game took about 2 hours. This game is a single competitive game, which means you play on your own, you're not playing part of a team, and there is some conflict. It's indirect, which means you're stopping other people from progressing, but you aren't necessarily targeting one person. This game is huge. It occupied a huge amount of table space. It's not something you can pack up and put into your pocket to play in the car or on a train. In terms of complexity, this is above average. It's not quite the genius level, but you do have to have your wits about you when you read the rules. It took me about 20 minutes to read the rules and understand them, and about 7 to 8 minutes to fully explain all the nuances to a new player. This game did have a lot of depth to it, though. There's a lot of things you can do, and so I've put this down as a deep game in terms of how much you can actually strategize. So for mechanics, rattling through these real quick, worker placement. There is definitely elements of worker placement, especially in the day phase. This is an area control game. You are trying to occupy certain areas when you're playing that day phase. When you come into the night phase, then it becomes much more a case of tile placement and pattern matching. So you have to place the right components in the right location. I think I mentioned that before. But in doing so, you're also doing a bit of engine building there as well. And that's one of the things that's quite fun about this game, is that you are actually building engines in order to generate more revenue. Finally, I would say there's a little bit of resource management here as well. You've got to make sure that you aren't just buying loads of food that's all going to go to spoil and waste. So you have to be cautious and careful and calculated with what you're buying to ensure you're buying the right things for the right people. When it comes to theme, I think Adam has absolutely hit the ball out the park here. He's done an amazing job. This game really immerses you, really does make you think that you're running a night market or trying to set up stalls in the night market and grow that empire. I think the attention to detail in the artwork is really, really good. All around the box, for example, you can see the signature dishes that you want to be creating. And even things like on the back of the box where it says number of players, there's a nice little icon there of the chefs that you need to hire. Yes, I think the theme really does fit very well in this game. Could I separate it and apply a different theme? Not really. The mechanics and the theme are so well interwoven. I think this is a game that really does do well in that aspect. Looking at where the fun lay in this game, let's start with whether we were doing anything meaningful. Did we have meaningful decisions to make? Yes, we absolutely did. There's a huge number of opportunities where the activity you engaged in or the action you carried out had direct consequence, so full marks for that. In terms of multiple ways to win this game, well, it is a victory point condition game, but you could go chasing some of the bonuses, or you could try to get the most number of stalls, or you could hire loads of staff and sell the most number of items. There are lots of possibilities in what you could do to gain those victory points and win. So yes, another big tick from me. Overall, I think luck and balance were very well managed in this game as well. I think each player was balanced, so there's no one player had an advantage over the others. I don't think, not in the gameplay I played. If something was to be random, it was random for everyone. So, for example, the customers that were coming up, the options that were left were very, very much down to how the game was being played, rather than some random effect. So, yes, I think luck and skill very well balanced. If you're a newbie versus someone who's played this game before, are you at a disadvantage? I think possibly you're at a disadvantage, but it's not a huge disadvantage. I think you could catch up just in the way the game played over that sort of 4-season period. So although you may be at a disadvantage initially, I think you could still pick up later in the game. This game has a lot going on, and therefore you are engaged. But it does mean that choices have to be made during your turn or before your turn. And those choices can lead to some analysis paralysis, perhaps. Just like any other worker placement kind of game, I think. You have to be careful about what you're about to do because you have limited resources and only a certain amount of options will become available as time goes on. So you've got to be kind of considerate. Did it slow the game down? Not dramatically. I didn't have to wait for any one of my players. We all sort of marched on. Could it become a problem? Maybe. But I think, again, it's solvable with a timer or something. But yeah, generally, I think we were all engaged in the game. Like I said, the theme won us over. The gameplay was pretty exciting, so we were all well engaged. Now, when it comes to the text and iconography, generally, I've said before that the game was very good. In fact, it was brilliant. But when it comes to the rulebook, I've got a bit of an issue. I think it's because I've got the reviewer's copy. There are still a couple of omissions in there, which I will pass on. There's a couple of elements that are just plain wrong, which again, I'll pass on. One of the things I found difficult though is the language used wasn't always very clear. And it was one of these rule books that you had to read till the end to work out what exactly you were going to do, which is a little disappointing. You want to kind of read that right at the beginning and say, okay, well, that's the aim of the game. Let's crack on. So that's the only thing I would say. Now, one of the things I loved about this game is that it provided you with a tutorial, and very few games do that. So it actually gave you a set scenario that you could play. The challenge I had was that the cards that were supplied for that tutorial looked exactly the same as the other normal playing cards. So it took a little while to determine what exactly it was that separated the two things out. But yes, a very clever sort of mechanic there of helping you learn the game was to play that tutorial. Thumbs up for that as well. So who do I play this game with, and what are my closing thoughts? Well, first of all, I think this is aimed really at a hobbyist. I think if you're a newbie to board games, probably this isn't the game for you. Even though the tutorial is supplied, I think you probably need to have played a few other games before, especially worker placements. But if you like a game like Architects, for example, I think you're going to love this game. I think it's a very well flowing game once you get into it. And it flows quite quickly. Even though it took us a couple of hours to play, it was a very enjoyable couple of hours. So I think there is a lot to be said about this game. I think if you like worker placement games, I think this has got something for you here. Especially if you like worker placement games. Now, my overall consensus then is, I'm really happy. I'm made up, in fact, that I got to see the end produce of a guy who I interviewed almost a year and a bit ago now, who gave me such sage advice, and I could see that manifest in this game. I can see it brought to life. I think Adam's done, and his team have done an amazing job in creating and taking that idea and bringing it to fruition and creating a really engaging game. Now, I know this is a review, not a critique, so, take it with a pinch of salt. I've said it before. If you like games like Architects, then I think you'll like this game. But that said, I can't help feeling really, really chuffed to bits with what I think is a really, really good game. Well, folks, that's my review over and done with. My review of Night Market. I hope I've done it justice. I hope you found that useful in making your own minds up. This game, like I said, is being published by Talon Strike Studios. It comes out on Kickstarter in March. I sincerely urge you to go check it out. I'm going to put links in my description to help you get as much information as you can on the game. But yeah, I've really enjoyed reviewing that. It's my first ever review of a game that's pre-Kickstarter, so I was pretty excited. I hope you found it entertaining and useful. Until next time, folks, take care.